Hello everyone and welcome back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla with me, Longclawvalhalla and Steel, where we always deliver. We're headed northwest this time to the county of Gloucestershire. Ivar has been invited to attend the wedding plans for his friend Gunnar. Gunnar is the blacksmith in the Ravensthorpe settlement, and he has met a new bride, a young local Welsh-speaking daughter of a previous alderman, and he introduces you into the local society, pointing out the current alderman and his future replacement without explaining why the current alderman plans to relinquish his title. It seems that Ivar's role here is to protect his friend's interests, but also he's on the lookout for a potential ally in this county. So let's see how we get on. Please check out the other content on my channel. I've got lots more Assassin's Creed videos as well as other content too. First up, Eivor is playing the role of protector for the future alderman Twidri, who's off to worship at a Christian worshipping site just outside the town, and of course there is some danger involved. He is attacked by some wild boars, which explains why Ivar was here, and this gives him a chance to change his initial impression of you. Having saved his life from the pesky boars, he now will be eternally grateful. And this is a nice way for you two to start off your bonding together. You're going to need this guy's help. He is a big character in this story arc. You head back to interact with Gunnar and his betrothed, and they're about to head out on a Hoodenism, which is a very early form of trick-or-treating, where you dress up and go and knock on people's doors, and you have to try to impress them, in this case with your flighting skills, and they will give you food. This is just a precursor to the next part of the mission, which will see you having to protect Gunnar, who seems to have got himself into a bit of trouble. You see he's now arguing with a local Briton who's challenged him to a brawl. Gunnar's an old man and is not at his best, and the young Briton does best him. Without your help he would surely be killed. So get involved and you'll be in the brawl. This guy is a proper wrestler and has a couple of ferocious moves that will throw you about. Stay out of his way and focus on close fighting. Eventually you will get the better of him between the two of you, but Gunnar does injure himself quite severely, and the local mage Modern does come and stop the fight. This is the first time we encounter her. She is of some authority and does help to heal Gunnar while you're off now interacting with Twidri once more, who wants to have a couple of drinks with you to enjoy the Halloween facilities as a thank you for saving his life from the boars earlier. When you meet with Twidri, he introduces you to Gwilym, who's a local monk, and the three of you start drinking together. There's a drinking competition to start things off, and you have your chance to try and best against Twidri, who is the future alderman. And before you get into some more drinking, the current alderman Kaina does interact with you, and he explains here that he plans to sacrifice himself in a Wicker Man, and this is a giant wooden statue that you would burn back in these times to assure, as a sacrifice to the gods, to assure a safe harvest, and it's very paganism at its best, thus leaving room for Twidri to take the crown as the local alderman. Remember, an alderman is really like a king, and this is his kingdom. Ivar gets to some serious drinking with Gwilym and Twidri, and then there's a scene where you need to stagger around and just try to stay on your feet, following behind Twidria, and you get the sense here that something ominous is about to happen. There's a couple of funny scenes before you both collapse in your own drunken splendour. But of course, this is not the end of the mission. You wake up in your bed, and as always, whenever Ivar wakes up in a bed in the middle of the night, something is going to happen. And as soon as he wakes up, you can see that you have blood all over your hands. Ivar is really going to need his detective skills now to get himself out of trouble. Look around you in the building that you're staying. There are several clues there, and you can also move a wall and get behind that and get some further clues. When you exit the building, Kaina will approach you and name you as a murderer. It seems Twidria was killed at some point whilst he's sleeping, and Ivar was so drunk he cannot really remember what's happened. So upon checking the clues thoroughly, you can piece together, but not before you have to take on the guards that Kaina has set upon you, calling you a murderer and a pagan, brutal warrior. It seems that from checking the clues that Twidria was dragged away indeed, and you report all of this back to Modrin, who agrees that there must be someone else involved. And with the pouch that Ivar found, it seems that Gwilym may be the culprit. He drugged both of you and Twidria during the drinking session, and that's why you passed out. She says that there's a local pagan worshipper who lives nearby who specialises in this kind of thing and probably will know where the potion was and what it was used for. So you need to visit him, and before he agrees to speak to you, you need to help him begin his festivities. He's now sacrificing some smaller wicker men, and you just need to set them alight. I think there's 5 of them. You just need to fire at them with burning arrows, and then you need to have a look around his property, because there are 5 or 6 clues within which you'll need to answer some riddles that he has for you. Now, don't worry too much about this. Apart from finding the 5 clues, use your Raven sight and find the clues. You can do this 1 clue at a time, or do it all in one, and that's what I did. And then you can go back and answer a series of questions, and then you'll be able to hand him the pouch that you found, and he will explain that yes, he did indeed fill this pouch for Gwilym, and Gwilym is now to be found he gives you the location. It's in some bandit camp nearby. In fact, Modrin will take you there and wait for you nearby while you go in and try to tackle him and take him on. So this story arc is a mixture of playing detective as well as diplomat, I suppose, and it is a little bit different. There is no major fortress that you need to take on. However, this next part of the mission sees you going into a fairly large bandit camp to take on and confront Gwilym. Why did he drug you, and what was his motive? And also, this is about clearing your name, because right now you are considered the murderer. When you get to the bandit camp, it's business as usual. There is some wealth, a couple of keys, and somewhere within, navigating yourself around the several guards that are there all trying to kill you, you will find your culprit. As soon as you get into the camp, you hear Twidria's voice breathing light onto the fact that he isn't actually dead. When you do find him, it seems that Gwilym was just a hired knife who was supposed to kill Twidria, and in fact he explains that it was Kaina, the current Elderman. So things get weird. He actually hired Twidria. He hired Gwilym to kill Twidria, to remove the Elderman. You report all of this back to Modrin, who doesn't seem that surprised, and you leave Twidria with her to go and take on Kaina. When you get back to the town, you need to interact with a few people, but namely this particular guy who's the window maker at the church, and he explains when you approach him at the alehouse that Kaina is in the church, and he can even tell you how to get in there. Of course, it's through the broken windows. You need to smash the windows with your arrow, and inside, behind a small wooden door just in front of the altar, you will find Kaina worshipping. So this guy is still planning to sacrifice himself, but he does confess that he was involved in a conspiracy and that you've been played for a fool. In fact, Modrin is the architect of all of this, and she is planning to take on the crown, the Elderman crown, after Kainer will sacrifice himself in the Wicker Man, thus meaning that Gloucestershire will no longer support both religions and will actually just be a pagan residence. You have the choice to kill him or allow him to follow through with his sacrificial wishes, and I chose to let him go to the Wicker Man. Focusing my attention now on Modrin. She is a druid and a mage, and probably the first encounter that we see with the druids, and there is of course now a DLC, The Wrath of the Druids, and I'll be bringing some of that content to my channel. This is a first glimpse at the power of the druid. She's exceptionally powerful, has a lot of skills. You need to fill up on as much ammunition as you can. There are plenty of arrows and things, and just try to do a combo of long range arrows. That's what they're there for. With short range, very speedy combat, and move around a lot because she has fire and magical potions which she can throw at you. And eventually, if you can best her, you'll then get a cutscene where you have the chance to listen to her, and she does explain that she and Kainer had her relationship, and in fact her daughter is a product of their relationship, and it was always decided that after Kainer was sacrificing himself, apparently he's ill and that's why he was going to sacrifice himself, that she will take on his role, and thus bringing everything to paganism, which is her wish. You have the chance to spare or kill her, and there is no benefit to sparing her at this stage. The young girl actually shows up to see this final battle, and when Tridri arouses himself, he agrees to take responsibility for her and make sure she's raised by the church, although she doesn't want to be Christian. He agrees that he will not force her to that cause, and that now he, after learning a bit more about it, has agreed that there could be a mixture of paganism and Christianity, which is really what happened throughout the whole of England back in this time. So one final task remains. We now have the Wicker Man itself. And the Wicker Man, as I said, is a huge wooden statue, and someone would get inside this and sacrifice themselves for the sake of a good harvest. And all the villagers would come and throw torches on this, and it's really a gruesome and very savage sacrificial, not unlike some of the Viking sacrifices that went on back to their gods. It's back in the very early stages of settlement. This is exactly the kind of thing that could have happened and is known for throughout this age. It's a fairly gruesome scene, and you get to hear and see the screams and shouts as Kynan is burnt alive inside the Wicker Man. And Ivar's work here is done, and you can return back to Randy and report on everything back in Ravensthorpe. Now you have secured an alliance with Tridri, who is grateful for all that you've done for him, and that's going to be very important in the story arcs to come. There may be another scene which you have to encounter depending on what you chose to do at the end of your Ivar battle, but for now we are done, and we have 2 story arcs up north that remain. I'll be back with another video soon.